The dust of the Pleistocene hangs heavy and orange over the Australian plains, thick with the scent of dry grass and the metallic tang of an ancient, unavoidable conflict. A figure of impossible geometry dominates the scene. Procoptodon, 10 feet tall on its massive vertical legs, it does not hop like its smaller modern cousins, but strides with a lumbering, deliberate grace. Its face is short, flat, almost human-like, with forward-facing eyes, a predator's look on a herbivore, granting it a focused, binocular intensity. Every muscle in its body is a coiled cable of endurance, built to traverse an arid, unforgiving continent. It is grazing, oblivious, its enamel-thickened teeth grinding the harsh, silica-rich grasses of the dying ice age. Lower, infinitely more muscular, a creature built of pure predatory strength, Smilodon, not the common fatales, but the terrifying populator, a cat of such immense power that its forearms alone could hold down a struggling bison. It moves with a terrifying, silent fluidity, its massive paws barely disturbing the dust. Its eyes, golden and cold, are fixed on the Procoptodon's neck, searching for the pulsing fountain of the jugular. It knows its job is not to wrestle, but to strike, cleave, and retreat. The giant kangaroo reacts instantly, its huge, flat feet pivoting, its arms ending in enormous clawed fingers raised in defense. But it is too late. The cat is a missile of fur and muscle. The air is split by a soundless explosion of violence. The Smilodon leaps, its jaw unhinging to an impossible angle, exposing the weapons that define its myth. Two massive, terrifyingly fragile, saber-like canines. This is not a brawl of tooth and claw. This is a surgical execution. The great cat must land, use its colossal forelimbs to pin the macropod, and then, with the terrifying precision of a specialized tool, drive the sabers deep, severing the major arteries and windpipe in a single devastating thrust. A slight error, a miscalculated angle, and those priceless teeth could shatter, turning the predator into a starving wreck. The clash hangs in the air, a tableau of ancient survival, perfection meeting necessity. Two kings of two separate lineages, locked in the last, desperate struggle of a world on the brink of collapse. How did the Earth create these miracles? And why, having crafted them with such meticulous genius, did it allow their stories to be so nearly erased? Welcome to A Time Before Our Own, when the Earth was a vast, sprawling canvas for creatures born of extremes. This is not the familiar world of the dinosaurs, but the strange, intoxicating period that followed the Age of Mammals, a 66-million-year odyssey of rebirth and reinvention. The moment the great reptilian empires fell, a vacuum of power was created, and into that vacuum rushed life in 1,000 bizarre, beautiful forms. These were the architects of our world, yet their names ring with the silence of forgotten myth. Creatures with strange shapes, surprising intelligence, and unique adaptations that beggar the imagination. They walked on 5 horns, carved tunnels with shovel teeth, and abandoned the land entirely to graze on the deep-sea floor. They were the evolutionary masterpieces of their time, perfectly honed for the environments that shaped them. Their only testament now is bone. Fossils serve as silent remnants, whispering of vanished forests, evaporated swamps, and oceans that swallowed giants. Each fragment of rock holds a biography, urging us to rediscover their nearly erased stories, to feel the raw, compelling power of the evolutionary process. To understand our world, we must first understand the forgotten mammals that built it. Our journey begins deep in the Eocene, a greenhouse world swathed in humid, subtropical forests. The air is heavy with moisture, and the undergrowth is a suffocating labyrinth of ferns and new angiosperms. Here, 50 million years ago, power was defined not by speed, but by stealth and sheer, brute strength. This creature was one of the powerful predators of the Eocene, belonging to a group called the Oxyenids. Patriophiles was not a true cat. Its lineage was a parallel, distinct path of mammalian predation that eventually became extinct. Yet the pressures of the ancient forest forced it to converge upon the cat's form, resulting in a muscular engine of destruction. It rivaled a jaguar in size, perhaps heavier and lower to the ground, a thick-set powerhouse built for explosive short-range violence. Imagine this magnificent hunter moving through the steaming undergrowth. Its coat, perhaps dappled or striped to break up its form in the dappled sunlight, is barely visible. It is a creature of patience. Its senses are attuned to the slightest rustle of early tapirs or miniature horses. It thrived in humid ancient forests and riverbanks, places where cover was abundant and escape was difficult. Its arsenal was specialized: lethal claws capable of anchoring an escaping prey animal, and canines that, while not the specialized sabers of later cats, were conical and formidable, designed to crush and puncture. The strategy of Patriophiles was simple and effective: the ambush. It would find a game trail or a watering hole, settle into the mud and foliage, and wait. When a target presented itself, the strike was instantaneous, a sudden, powerful surge of muscle designed to flatten and dispatch the victim before it could even cry out. This was a world brimming with life after the dinosaurs' extinction, but survival demanded constant vigilance. Patriophiles was a silent, lethal testament to the fact that in the Eocene, the predator's efficiency was paramount. But where are the descendants of this successful reign? Like so many evolutionary first drafts, the Oxyenids were eventually eclipsed. As the climate cooled and forests gave way to open grasslands, the heavy, ambush-style hunter was outcompeted by the true cats and the nimble hyenodonts, predators better suited for running and open terrain. The father of love vanished, leaving the forests to the ancestors of the modern carnivore. Now let us turn the clock back even further, to the dawn of the mammalian reign, the Paleocene, the epoch immediately following the K/PG extinction event. The world is volatile, still scarred by the impact, yet bursting with the raw energy of recovery. In this turbulent, post-dinosaur environment, one creature embodied the term hardy survivor: Stylinodon. This Paleocene behemoth was not elegant or swift, but a robust mammal of immense power, belonging to one of the most mysterious and isolated mammalian orders, the Cteniodonts. Imagine a creature the size of a large hog, low-slung, neckless, and built like a geological surveying tool. It was a specialist in earth-moving, a subterranean engine of the recovering world. Its most defining feature was its dentistry. Stylinodon possessed continuously growing teeth, known as hypsodonty, a trait usually associated with persistent grazing. But its teeth were different. They were chisel-like incisors, reinforced with a dense, iron-rich enamel. These weren't for chewing grass, they were for shredding the earth itself. Equipped with formidable digging claws, massive talons anchored by dense bones and powerful shoulder girdles, Stylinodon literally carved out a living by tearing through soil, roots, or decaying wood. It was an ultimate omnivore, capable of extracting subterranean tubers, roots, and perhaps even early insect larvae. Its dense, heavy bones and powerful frame were necessary to withstand the incredible stresses of constant digging, marking it as a creature of immense strength. The Icteniodonts filled a crucial niche during the Earth's rebooting era. They were the excavators, the nutrient cyclers, the specialists who utilized the underground resources left behind by the collapsing ecosystems. They were the ground-level pioneers, ensuring stability from the bottom up. The tenacity of Stylinodon speaks a profound truth. In the greatest moments of crisis, it is often not the swift or the glamorous that survive, but the tough, specialized worker who can adapt to the most punishing conditions. It reigned for millions of years, an anchor in the Paleocene storm, until the rising complexity of other burrowing specialists and changing vegetation patterns eventually eroded its niche, sending the Icteniodont lineage into the dust. The Paleocene was a land of opportunists, and no creature seized the post-extinction moment quite like Pantalander. Standing roughly the size of a sheep, but built more like a primitive, robust llama with a long tail, this animal might seem unremarkable today. But in its time, it was a giant. Think of the world 65 million years ago. The largest surviving mammals were generally shrew-sized. Pantalander was one of the first large mammals to rise after the dinosaurs' extinction, a true evolutionary trailblazer who demonstrated that mammals could once again claim physical dominance. It belonged to a diverse, extinct order called the condylarths, a kind of template group from which many future orders, including horses, camels, and even elephants, would eventually diverge. Pantalander was a blueprint for the mammalian future. Crucially, it was an omnivorous condylarth, a lack of specialization that proved to be its greatest strength. It was not tied to one food source, allowing it to fill new ecological roles in recovering forests and early grasslands, a generalist thriving in a world of voids. It ate fruit, leaves, roots, and perhaps scavenged smaller animals. It was a living embodiment of ecological flexibility. Its sturdy body and flexible diet positioned it as a pioneer in reshaping ecosystems during the Earth's chaotic rebuilding. By browsing and dispersing seeds, by becoming the principal prey for emerging predators, and by simply dominating the size class, Pantalander effectively laid the groundwork for the megafauna that would follow. It proved that mammalian life was not only persistent, but was ready to inherit the Earth. The story of Pantalander is a lesson in essential beginnings. It was not the final, most specialized product, but the vital first step, the proof of concept. The condylarths eventually faded, replaced by their more specialized descendants, but they ensured that the mammalian narrative would continue, proving that in times of upheaval, the ability to adapt, consume, and pioneer is the most valuable trait of all. From the pioneer of the Paleocene, we jump forward to the Eocene's swampy embrace, 37 million years ago, to meet a creature that seems to defy its own future, Megafauna. Look closely at this small, squat animal, no bigger than a tapir, with a broad, flat skull and eyes set high on its head. It is almost pig-like, hippopotamus-like, a creature perfectly adapted to its environment. Its environment was the rich, swampy Eocene forests of North Africa. This creature was a small, semi-aquatic proboscidean living in swampy Eocene forests long before true elephants emerged. The great secret of Megafauna is hidden in its nose and lips. It used a short, flexible upper lip to gather aquatic plants, not yet a trunk, but the clear, nascent beginning of one. The high-set eyes and nostrils suggest it spent much of its time submerged, browsing the underwater gardens, moving through the thick mud of the great river deltas. It was a creature of the interface, neither fully land nor fully water, perfectly balanced for the wet, hot world it inhabited. It had tiny, vestigial tusks, simple extensions of its incisors. It lacked the social complexity and massive size of its descendants, yet it was a perfect organism for its time. The fate of Megafauna is a stark warning about climate change. As climates dried and wetlands vanished, the very environment that had sculpted it for survival disappeared. It was too specialized for the water, yet too small and ill-equipped for the emerging, drier savannas. It disappeared from the fossil record, a victim of geographical and climatic transformation.
The Megafauna, an ancient ancestor.
Yet its extinction was merely a transformation. Its lineage, forced to adapt to the drier conditions, began to lengthen its limbs, develop its flexible lip into a true trunk, and grow its incisors into massive tusks. Its disappearance paved the way for the mastodons, the shovel-tusked Gomphothers, and finally, the colossal elephants we know today. Megafauna teaches us that the end of one perfect adaptation is often the necessary precursor to a greater, more successful lineage. Let us now traverse oceans and continents, heading to Miocene South America, a land that was, for millions of years, an evolutionary island. This isolation allowed for the most bizarre, unique forms of life to flourish, including the ancestors of the iconic sloth. Meet Hoplitomerix, the antithesis of the giant ground sloths that would later dominate the continent. This creature was a small, nimble member of early South American fauna, about the size of a small dog, though heavier and lower to the ground. It possessed the large claws characteristic of the sloths, but it was entirely terrestrial and arboreal, a creature of quick movement and deliberate action, a million miles away from the slow-motion life of its modern, canopy-dwelling cousins. Hoplitomerix was a master of its environment, capable of climbing and feeding in low trees with considerable agility, navigating the dense forests of the isolated continent. It represents the lighter, more versatile beginnings of the sloth lineage. Before the need for defense against sophisticated predators drove sloths to either climb higher or grow colossal, Hoplitomerix simply existed, a generalist browser living a relatively easy life.
Bathed in the golden light of the savannah, the magnificent Paleolocton.
Its story is one of evolutionary potential. Living in a continent acting as an evolutionary island, the sloth lineage was allowed to experiment without the relentless pressure of North American competition. Hoplitomerix shows us the initial blueprint before it diverged into heavy ground forms like the massive Megafauna and the sleek, tree-dwelling forms we see today. The later emergence of megapredators like the saber-toothed cats and the arrival of North American fauna via the Panamanian Land Bridge, the Great American Interchange, forced the sloths to change dramatically. Hoplitomerix and its relatives were either outcompeted or evolved into the spectacular extremes of their descendants. It proves that the starting point of any grand lineage is often modest, yet it holds the genetic keys to every dramatic transformation that follows. Our next subject takes us to an even more profound state of isolation. The Miocene islands of Gargano, off the coast of Italy 8 million years ago. Islands are nature's laboratories, and Gargano, separated from the mainland, was a world unto itself, producing animals of incredible strangeness. None was more unique than the diminutive deer relative, Hoplitomerix, the armed ruminant. Hoplitomerix evolved truly bizarre traits due to the phenomenon of island endemism, where large animals tend to dwarf and small animals tend to gigantize. In a twist of fate, this small herbivore, about the size of a modern roe deer, evolved a terrifyingly ornate weaponry: 5 forward-thrusting horns, 2 massive, long horns over the eyes, 2 smaller ones behind the ears, and a central, single horn on the forehead. As if that were not strange enough, despite being herbivorous, it also possessed saber-like canines, long, slender teeth usually associated with primitive deer or carnivores. This strange combination of weaponry and diet tells a crucial story. With no major predators, the evolutionary pressure was not from external threat, but from internal competition. The horns and tusks were used for sexual display and fierce, lethal combat with its own species over territory and mates. Hoplitomerix competed among equally strange island fauna, giant shrews, massive mice, and short-legged predators that only existed there. It was a perfect, self-contained ecosystem. But all paradises are temporary. The slow, quiet tragedy of Hoplitomerix was sealed when the geological forces began to connect the island to the Italian mainland. Rising seas sometimes isolated it, but eventually the new predators, true foxes, wolves, and more competitive deer gained access. These mainland immigrants, adapted to fierce continental competition, swiftly outcompeted or preyed upon the naive, specialized island fauna. The magnificent, 5-horned enigma was quietly erased, a profound example of how a unique lineage can be extinguished by a simple shift in geography and the introduction of a more generalized, adaptable competitor. If Megafauna was the idea of an elephant, Gomphotherium was the first great expression of it. It was a widespread Miocene-Pliocene giant, thriving across continents, a monumental figure of transitional anatomy. Imagine this colossal beast, It had a full, sophisticated trunk and tusks emerging from its upper jaw like a modern elephant. But then, look at the lower jaw. A pair of shovel-like lower tusks jutted out straight forward. It was a giant with two upper tusks and two shovel-like lower tusks. These lower tusks were not merely for show. They were a feeding adaptation that defined its success. The lower shovel was used to scoop and tear aquatic plants from the mud, to debark trees, or to dig up roots and tubers. This specialized tool allowed Gomphotherium to feed on diverse vegetation across varied environments, from swampy forests to early grasslands. This adaptability made it one of the most successful proboscideans in history. It thrived across continents, Africa, Eurasia, and North America, a testament to its versatility. Evidence suggests they were intelligent, social creatures, likely living in structured herds much like modern elephants, utilizing their massive size and sophisticated communication to survive the predator-filled plains. The anatomy of Gomphotherium marks a transitional phase, bridging primitive proboscideans and modern elephants. It was a stepping stone, a supremely successful evolutionary experiment that was nevertheless superseded. As the Pliocene world dried further and the grasslands became more expansive and tougher, the shovel-tusk became less efficient than the single, versatile trunk and powerful upper tusks of the later mammoths and modern elephants. Gomphotherium is a magnificent example of a perfect compromise, a transitional creature that reigned for millions of years, proving that the pathway to the modern world was paved by a series of glorious, successful giants that eventually had to step aside for the next, equally magnificent iteration. This creature's story is not about being big or fast, but about a radical abandonment of its evolutionary heritage. It was a sloth that, over the course of millions of years, abandoned land for the coastal Pacific. Imagine the process. Initially, perhaps, it was a terrestrial sloth that fed on coastal vegetation during low tide. Gradually, the richer, softer resources of the intertidal zone, sea grasses and algae, proved too tempting. The need to reach them drove the sloth to wade, then swim, then finally, to live permanently in the chilly, nutrient-rich waters off the coast of Peru and Chile. The physiological changes were profound. To counteract the buoyancy of the water and to allow it to effectively graze on the seafloor, Thalassochnus evolved heavier bones, a condition called pachyostosis. This dense skeleton acted as internal ballast, a crucial adaptation that enabled it to sink and walk slowly along the seabed, functioning as a slow-moving, algae-grazing giant. It developed specialized teeth suited for underwater meadows, powerful and adapted for grinding the fibrous, tough marine plants. Over millions of years, it developed heavier bones and specialized teeth that were utterly alien to its terrestrial ancestors. Thalassochnus became one of the rare mammals to transition almost completely from terrestrial to marine life, a journey that echoes the much older story of the whales. It represents the ultimate niche switch, a refusal to be constrained by the limitations of land. It was the result of relentless resource pressure and a genetic capacity for profound change. Its eventual extinction, around 3 million years ago, coincided with the final dramatic uplift of the Andes and a change in the cold, upwelling currents that fed its algae meadows. The environment it had spent millions of years perfecting itself for simply dissolved. Thalassocnus is a tragic masterpiece, a stunning reminder that specialization, while offering the most perfect survival for a time, can be a fragile dependency when the world begins to shift. We return now to the plains of the Pleistocene, to the colossal figure that opened our chronicle, the true king of Australia's megafauna, Procoptodon. Forget the image of the modern kangaroo, a graceful, horizontal animal built for speed. Procoptodon was something altogether different. It was a towering, 10-foot macropod that walked upright rather than hopped, a bipedal giant built for endurance and power. Imagine this creature traversing the vast, arid plains. Its locomotion was a lumbering, deliberate walk, utilizing its massive legs and its large, single-toed feet for stability. Its head was distinct, a short, flat face with flat binocular vision eyes, a focused gaze that could spot the slightest movement across the vast, treeless horizons. This was a creature built for a brutal, dry continent. With massive limbs designed for both walking and defense, Procoptodon was an imposing figure. Its teeth were a testament to the harsh reality of its diet, enamel-thickened teeth that could efficiently grind the tough, fibrous, silica-rich grasses that characterized the Australian landscape during the Ice Ages. It was a supreme herbivore, perfectly engineered to utilize low-grade, high-endurance fuel. Procoptodon was built for harsh, arid landscapes of the Pleistocene. It lived among Australia's megafauna giants, the giant wombats, Diprotodon, and the massive flightless birds, Genyornis, a king among titans. Its end, like so many other giants, is a complex, sobering tragedy. The combined forces of climate shifts, the increasing aridity and the destabilization of water sources, and potentially the arrival of the first human hunters, caused an ecological collapse that was too swift for this highly specialized animal to adapt to. The king of the plains vanished, sealed by an interaction of factors that destabilized the delicate balance of its arid world. And finally, we return to the iconic, terrifying perfection of the Pleistocene Americas, Smilodon, the ultimate precision killer. We saw it in the opening, a creature of singular, focused power. The iconic saber-toothed cat was a powerful ambush predator, not a distance runner, but a specialist in short bursts of overwhelming, targeted violence. Its build reflected this, an immensely muscular neck, massive shoulders and front legs more powerful than a modern lion's, built to drag down and hold the largest, most powerful prey. Its defining feature, the saber, was a weapon of specialization. It was fragile but deadly precision canines. They were designed to shear, not to stab a resisting, flailing animal. This required a huge gape of the jaw to clear the tips of the teeth past the lower lip, and it required the cat to pin its prey absolutely, minimizing movement. Its hunting strategy was lethal efficiency. Utilize its immense strength to down a giant bison or a young mastodon, and then, with its enormous jaw gape and muscular build, drive the blade-like tooth into the throat or underbelly, severing major blood vessels with surgical efficiency. Smilodon ruled the Pleistocene Americas precisely because it was built to dispatch the largest animals of the Megafauna, its primary food source. Its entire existence was tethered to the presence of these colossal herbivores. And that was its final fatal flaw. It was too specialized. When the vast herds of mammoths, ground sloths, camels, and giant bison began their terminal decline due to climate change, hunting pressure, or a combination of both, the Smilodon found itself a perfect tool with no job. Its massive precision teeth were ill-suited for hunting smaller, faster prey like deer and elk. The less specialized, more versatile pumas and lions survived the collapse, but the megafaunal collapse ended its reign. The precision killer was outlived by the generalist, a tragic irony of evolution. We have traversed 65 million years of mammalian ingenuity, witnessing the rise and fall of 11 empires, from the shovel-tusked wanderer to the marine sloth, from the earliest pioneer to the ultimate predator. The stories of Patriophiles, Hoplitomerix, Stylinodon, and all the others are not simply tales of death, but profound lessons in life. The grand cruelty of natural laws is that there is no reward for perfection. The Smilodon was a perfect killing machine, but its perfection made it brittle. The Hoplitomerix was perfectly adapted to its island, but that very adaptation was its undoing when the world changed. We have only scratched the surface of the forgotten pantheon. The Earth holds infinite stories of rise, adaptation, and dramatic, necessary collapse. Don't let these monumental chapters of history vanish into the silence. If you wish to continue unearthing the profound secrets of the vanished world, please subscribe to the channel and join our chronicle. The next giant is waiting to be rediscovered.